I speak a lot on this channel about how we shouldn't fear the impending breakdown we're witnessing in the UK and Europe, and that's because in life you often need a breakdown to wash away all of the untruths, all of the inauthenticity, and that can lead to quite meaningful breakthroughs. A perfect example of this is the liberal mythology breaking down in real time all around us. While the liberal mythology still works for the elites, for the average person on the street, whether left or right, it just does not speak to our daily experiences. As a quick overview, the liberal mythology is something like post-Second World War. On the far left you have crazy communists, in the middle you have sensible good people, the liberals, centre-left, centre or centre-right, and to the far right you have Nazis. Now, this system was held in place throughout the latter part of the 20th century by a cultural cohesiveness, a homogeneity, even the remnants of a religious order. But now all of that's gone. It's looking increasingly precarious and outdated. And again, I referenced this yesterday. There was an interesting interview between Piers Morgan and Tucker Carlson. It's very much Tucker Carlson representing the new right, a new way of thinking, and Piers Morgan representing the liberal order.
After the Second World War, which was like a liberation war, and you won, you lost all your freedom, and now you can't even express your political opinions, so they put you in jail. So, like, how did you win? How did you win? Is that what victory looks like? You lose all your rights, your economy gets destroyed,
you know why we won?
By bankers,
we
and
won.
all of a sudden, oh, I won!
We won because I'm not conducting this interview in German.
Now, the first thing to say about this is that an interview like this can even take place between two mainstream figures really is a sign of the times. Do you think this could have happened 5, 10 years ago? Back then, Tucker Carlson would simply be labelled a Nazi. Of course, The Guardian will still call him a Nazi, but they think anybody who doesn't subscribe to the race communism of a Fuhr Hirsch or a Ash Sakar is a Nazi anyway. Yet the blunt truth is that Tucker Carlson has a point in what he's saying. Do the people of Europe really feel free after the liberal project post-Second World War? Many people in Europe would say that they feel like they're losing their way of life, their homelands. If all the liberal mainstream can do is respond by calling people a Nazi in a childish but ultimately tyrannical manner that stops any criticism of the liberal system, it shows why people are losing faith in it. There's also an interesting moment where Piers Morgan engages in what the YouTuber academic agent would call the boomer truth regime to try and bring things back to line.
We won because I'm not conducting this interview in German.
Now, I'm no historian, so correct me if I'm wrong down in the comments, but to my understanding, Hitler didn't actually want the British to speak German. He wanted Britain and the British Empire to rule the waves, while Germany would rule Europe. And to Starmer's Stasi, who no doubt watch all the, quote, far-right channels that are full of, quote, hateful bigots these days, that's not me saying that's something I want, that's not me saying that's right, it's just my understanding that that's the actual history and that Piers Morgan is engaging in liberal mythos rather than fact.
I'd rather not speak German and be goose-stepping around my yard in England, yeah.
Goose-stepping?
Yeah.
But you are goose-stepping. People are arrested for praying.
We literally won our freedom.
Where's your freedom? Where's your freedom? You can get arrested.
I'm as free as you could possibly want a human being to be.
You can't defend yourself. You can't control who comes into your country, and you can't criticize government policies or you get arrested. So how are you free? You're a slave, aren't you?
No.
I'm sure Piers, a multi-millionaire who can go anywhere in the world if he wants, feels free. But for most of us, I think we're quite concerned that the liberal system is turning into exactly what it's supposed to be against, i.e. a tyrannical, authoritarian state. After all, I had to make it clear a short moment ago, I don't promote any form of extremism because the government have all sorts of lackeys out there that want to find any angle to ruin people's lives for criticising the liberal system. Not to mention, we have all sorts of people concerned about what they post online now because they could be jailed. We've also had 3,300 arrests in the UK in 2023 apparently for social media offences, and only 400 arrests for that in Russia. And as I've said in prior videos, this is the end result of a liberal multicultural ideology. It leads to the state being more censorious so that different groups don't feel offended and things stay, quote, equal. It's why Angela Rayner is to set rules on Islam and free speech now. Yet in a sane world, we'd know that you don't need special rules for Islam. If somebody is promoting violence, if somebody is in a sustained campaign of abuse, if somebody's stalking someone else, then the state has more than enough justification to act in those instances. But we all know what this is. It's effectively a de facto blasphemy law for the religion of peace. After all, a Muslim only needs to feel offended, and that's proof of Islamophobia. And let's be honest, it's not the most robust religion in the world anyway, is it? Now, while this sort of thing is alarming, again, we shouldn't fear it because essentially what they're saying is anybody who criticises Islam through the liberal frame is automatically a Nazi. And the whole situation is getting increasingly absurd, and that means that it will eventually fall. It is the attempts of the centre-left types who are increasingly absurd to keep liberalism afloat. It means it's having to be defended by the centre-right. This is represented by the darling of the libertarian centre-right at the moment, Konstantin Kisin. You often see him featuring with lots of the big names of that movement, Jordan Peterson and John Anderson. Now, Konstantin Kisin made his name doing viral takedowns of woke lefties, but now he's turned his gaze to the, quote, woke right. That's essentially people like Tucker Carlson, those who question the liberal mythos after the Second World War. He states here as an intro to a piece on his Substack, the woke left has tried to undo Churchill's legacy for decades. Now the woke right has joined in. How could they not? As with the woke left, he stands as a bold and obvious reminder of the fact that they're wrong. Now, personally, I don't care about being called woke right. As I say, I think most of these things are word spells these days, and this one I think is very well designed to try and wind up the right by telling them they're exactly what they hate. What's interesting here is how it all comes back to the figure of Churchill. Figures like Kisin are happy to criticise the so-called woke right for their supposed historical revisionism around Churchill, but it's worth remembering that Churchill wasn't exactly a liberal himself. He wanted to maintain the British Empire, which fell apart after the war. He had, quote, racialist views, and he didn't go to war in order for liberal principles. He wanted to protect the interests of the British Empire and was worried about resurgent Germany. I'm sure many will take me to task for that view down in the comments, and please do feel free to do so, but it kind of proves the point I'm talking to. There is a mythology around Churchill on the left, the centre and the right. Now, people can argue about who is wrong and who is right about Churchill until the cows come home, but the fundamental reality is the results of the liberal consensus that we're experiencing here and now today. Yet as we can see when we look around us is that things are falling apart and we're paying for the privilege. That doesn't mean that we immediately jump to Nazism. That's just a trick used by the liberal mainstream to keep people in line. What it means, to my mind at least, is there needs to be a collective and personal return to first principles. Questions such as, what is a country? What is a tradition? What's the best way to create collective, social and cultural harmony? It's either this or we all get ground into unidentifiable human goop used as batteries by the globalist system. Yet I believe answers can't be found in ideologies. That's the level of the intellect. And nor should any answers be rooted in anger or despair, but instead in a spiritual openness, a sincerity that comes with a revolution of the self. That's why I promote spiritual rebirth, a return to tradition. And honestly, I don't know what comes in the future, but I do know we have to be in the right spiritual and mental shape to navigate it with truth, love, and justice. This is, of course, what I speak a lot about on the Substack. There's a lot more content coming down the line about personal, collective, spiritual rebirth and the like. Do let me know your thoughts about all this down below. Consider subscribing if you're new. And do have a pleasant rest of the day.